Okay, looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Chuck Holton here. I haven't seen you in a while from CBN News, but I am uh, doing these lives almost every day over on my own channel at the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. So make sure you go over there and check those out. But thank you all for being here. I appreciate everybody. Please like and share the podcast or this live, and that way we can get more people watching. That's how YouTube's algorithm works. So just hit that like button and then make sure you're subscribed, share it with your friends, and help the channel to grow. Now, there's a lot going on here in the Middle East. This is not a green screen behind me. This is actually the southernmost province of Armenia. And Armenia, if you know anything about your geography, I mean, a lot of people don't, uh, but it is right on the northern border of Iran. So those mountains behind me, if you went just over those mountains, you'd be in Iran. So we're going to be talking about the attack on Iran today and what the IDF is doing, what the ramifications are going to be of this, and how the Israelis are coping with that, and how the Iranians are coping with that. So you're going to want to stay tuned. Do me a favor, if you're watching from wherever you're coming from, put in the chat box where you're watching from so we can see. It's really fun to see people just from literally all over the world. I've already seen people from Israel, Texas, New York, I mean, Massachusetts, all different countries, really. Tennessee, California, uh, the Kentucky, Illinois, Mesquite, Texas, Trinidad and Tobago, Oregon, Philadelphia, Tennessee. Oh, here we go. Ontario, Canada, Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Amazing. Amazing. All you people coming in from all over the world. Isn't that fun to watch? So, somebody's from Nigeria, Sweden. I mean, literally all over the planet. It makes me feel better. I have to say that because sometimes it feels just kind of strange sitting out here by myself, talking to myself with just a computer open in front of me because I can't see the football stadium full of people who are watching. And so, look, we've got a lot of important stuff to talk about today. So let's get to it. Let's start with just an update on what's going on uh, in this conflict that has kicked off, because we're talking about major war now. This is not tit for tat like we've seen so far. Last year in April and in October, there were exchanges of fire between Iran and Israel, and it was 300 missiles on the part of Iran, none of which made it into managed to kill anybody in Israel. And then Israel fires a couple of rounds back, and that was in April. Fires one round back and takes out a air defense artillery location. Let them know, hey, we can do this if we need to. Well, they didn't get the memo. So in October, Iran attacked again, and we were actually there. I was in Amman, Jordan, and was watching the rockets from from Iran, go over our hotel, and the rockets from Israel's Iron Dome system come up and meet them and blow them up over our hotel. There were several houses that caught fire in the neighborhood around the hotel from falling debris from those rockets. It was October 1st, I think, when that attack took place. And then when Israel responded on October 26th, it was a serious response, and they decimated Iran's air defense capability. But even that was just meant to send a message. And the message was, we could do a lot worse than this if we wanted to. Well, Iran, hard-headed, stubborn, still didn't get the message. And so even when President Trump threatened that they've got 60 days to come to the negotiating table and come up with a plan to eliminate their nuclear enrichment program, 60 days, Iran still didn't get the memo. And today is the 61st day after that threat was made. Now, you could easily make a case that President Trump said that he'd be leading the charge on these attacks, and the United States is saying now they're not involved in any way. That may or may not be the truth. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. But suffice it to say that President Trump is not leading the charge on this. And so he kind of looks like he's leading from behind. And that, in and of itself, is not as bad as it sounds, but many people are taking that around the world to mean that President Trump is essentially irrelevant in this contest. Uh, that America is stepping back from its role as guarantor of safety on the high seas, et cetera, et cetera. And so, whatever America thinks from now on is going to hold a little less weight than it did before. A lot of people are feeling that way right now. Now, uh, President Trump is not throwing Israel under the bus. His administration is standing behind Israel and supporting them and what they've got to do. And it is likely, not just possible, but likely that the United States is quietly assisting Israel in this fight. There was, at one point, Iran fired 100 drones at Israel. If that's the best they can come up with, they might as well just go back home because virtually all of those, I think every single one of those drones was shot down before it even made it into Israeli airspace. Part of the reason they were shot down is because the Jordanian Air Force scrambled and shot some down. The Saudi Air Force scrambled and shot some down. And it sounds like perhaps the United States Air Force helped to shoot some down as well. So it's not that the United States is not involved at all. It's just that we're not involved in an offensive capacity. Now, it's also very likely that the United States is providing refueling support for Israeli aircraft because the Israelis only have like 7 refueling tankers total. And with that being the case, they need a little help to refuel their couple hundred fighter aircraft and bomber aircraft that are performing sorties over Iranian airspace right now, because that's about 1,000 miles from one way from Israel. And that's about the range of one of those planes. So it depends on a lot of things. But they're going to have to aerial refuel in order to be able to get back home. Typically, what they would do is they'd fly all the way out there, or most of the way there, aerial refuel, do their mission, come back, refuel again, and then go back to base to rearm and do it all over again. So with a couple hundred aircraft, of course, they're not going to have all of them in the air at once, although they probably have not had as many aircraft in the air as they do now since the 1967 war. I mean, in terms of the percentage of aircraft that belong to Israel that are currently flying combat missions. But with only 7 refueling aircraft, that would be a very difficult problem to solve. So it's very likely that the United States is allowing the Israelis to either use our refueling aircraft or to make use of some of our bases across the Middle East in places like Iraq or Bahrain or Qatar, because, and even that is not real likely, since Bahrain and Qatar and Kuwait they don't want to be seen as supporting Israel in these attacks, although they do support Israel in these attacks. I mean, make no mistake about it. People in Syria, in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Bahrain right now, they are giddy over these attacks. Everybody in the Middle East wants to see the Iranians taken down a notch. And that's exactly what's happening. So, since that's the case, these Israeli aircraft, they've done We know at least 5 sorties, probably many more, probably more like 8 or 9 at this point. But uh, every one of those sorties, they got to fly all the way over there and all the way back, and they're going to have to aerial refuel in the middle, right? So they need help from the United States, and it's likely the United States is offering that help kind of on the lowdown, right? Now, it's there's a whole lot more to it than just airplanes. There's a lot more to it than just uh, IAF aircraft bombing sites inside Iran, although there's a lot of that happening. They say that they've struck about 100 different times inside Iran, the planes have, but that doesn't count other strikes that have taken place on H hour at the very beginning of these attacks that were already pre-planned and pre-positioned inside Iran. So this is amazing what has happened. It's truly just military and strategic genius. Apparently, for many years, the Israelis have been smuggling weapons into Iran and stockpiling them there for just such a scenario where they have to go to all out war with Iran. And they have been quietly building them up, quietly preparing the sites, getting them pre-positioned, etc. And there was apparently a three-pronged approach by the Mossad to kick off this war. This is amazing stuff, people. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm trying to find where we had that written down. I had notes on that. Uh, the Mossad had a three-pronged strategy inside Iran. So we had talked before about, that there probably will not be IDF boots on the ground in Iran. That would be crazy because it's 1,000 miles from Israel. How are you going to support those people? How are you going to feed them? How are you going to arm them? And how are you going to rescue them if they get captured? Well, as it turns out, the Mossad figured out a way, or at least they weren't worried about those things. And the Mossad had people inside Iran on the ground performing missions for the past several months or perhaps even years. And this three-pronged strategy was as follows. They are, okay, they have drones that they have either smuggled in or built on site. And they had built a drone base. And apparently they'd been working on this base for years. Years. This is unbelievable. And so it must have been in a remote area outside of Tel Aviv, but not far from Tel Aviv. And then when H hour came, they autonomously or sort of automatically launched all these drones, and they all had coordinates programmed in for where to strike. And so they took off from this safe place that Israel had uh, constructed inside Iran and flew out to various different places and struck targets just to multiply the chaos in Iran and to help make it easier for the Israeli Air Force to come in and strike. Now think about this. Think about the amount of planning, the amount of preparation, forethought that went into making these uh, making this drone base, finding targets, programming the drones after you put them all together, and programming each drone to go to a different target. These, I don't know what kind of drones they were, but they were likely not commercial drones. They were likely constructed. Now we know that the Israeli defense forces have been working closely with the Ukrainians and sharing their drone technology, both directions. So the Israelis have been providing drone technology to Ukraine, and Ukraine has been providing strategic and tactical wisdom to Israel on how to do this. So we just saw, uh, a week ago in Russia, an attack by Ukraine that was unprecedented. More than 100 drones took off without people flying them. These were autonomous drones, took off out of carefully constructed, concealed compartments in cargo containers. Wow, that's a lot of C's. Carefully constructed, concealed compartments in cargo containers. Say that 10 times fast. Uh, and then flying off and going to certain points where they were pre programmed to strike. And if the target that they were programmed to strike was not there, then artificial intelligence was programmed to take over, and the aircraft were these unmanned aircraft were to fly around until they found something worth striking and then strike that. So they knew what a plane looked like, they knew what a sub looked like, etc. This is an incredible new way of war. And I just want to take a side note here and explain what we're dealing with, how this has changed everything in the world of war. So, if a country can, in 18 months, plan an operation where they move drone parts into a country, their enemy country, assemble those, hide them, and then pre-position them in sensitive locations, and then push a button, and all at once the tops of those containers open up and the drones fly off and they go strike whatever targets they've been told to strike, and they go looking for targets. They actually use visual recognition. They know what a plane looks like, and they're programmed to hit planes. And now we have word coming out of Iran that the Mossad has had commando units inside Iran doing the same thing, but they've been doing it for years. They've been preparing this for years. And it wasn't just drones, it was also, I guess, something like wire guided anti tank missiles, small missiles that are, was something we would call like a man pads or a law or a dragon or a tow missile, something like that in the United States. Some kind of small missile like that they smuggled in. They put them in trucks. They camouflage the trucks to look like civilian, like delivery trucks, with the side that just goes float and folds down, and then fires at pre-planned targets. So each one of those missiles is pre-aimed to go hit a specific target. And what they did was they pre-positioned these trucks around Iran at sensitive military sites, just outside of sensitive military sites, especially places that had air defense radar, air defense missiles, surface to air missiles, things like that, surface to surface missiles, all positioned there. And then the Mossad programmed these, I don't know, what do you call them? Just, missile trucks, so that they were remotely operable. And then when the time was right at H hour, they didn't have to be there. They were somewhere else, far, far away, maybe even back in Israel. And they just push a button and the side of that truck opens up and these missiles pop out and fire and take out surface to air missiles, surface to surface missiles, sensitive radars, communications arrays, different things like that. That's what happened last night. Folks, do you understand how just insane that is? Think about this now. These are things, especially the drones, that are commercially available to anybody. And there are many organizations in the world, not to mention nation states, that have a beef with the United States. And they know that their conventional military forces could not withstand a battle against the United States military. They would just lose and lose badly. And we're not talking about Congo. We're talking about Russia and China and Iran. If the Mossad had the forethought to move weaponry into Iran and preposition it to attack at a remote command, do you think, I mean, do you have any doubt that Iran hasn't thought the same way? That Russia and China have not been thinking the same thing? Those are the guys, Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, they're the ones that are all about asymmetric war. And I really believe that many of the forest fires that we've seen over the last 12 months in the United States have been started by Russian agents or Chinese agents. We've just recently in the United States captured two separate Chinese agents who were smuggling bioweapons into the United States. They were agricultural bioweapons meant to wipe out our crops. And by the grace of God, the FBI managed to pick these people up before they could deliver their payload. So there's no doubt in my mind that our adversaries are planning similar operations in the United States. And it could be drones, it could be missiles, it could be explosives, it could be car bombs, it could be bioagent. I mean, there's any number of things that this could be, but and we know for a fact that Iran has tried things in the United States before. They tried to assassinate President Trump. They have, uh, facilitated. They tried to assassinate my friend Oliver North. There was a Iranian hit team that came up to his back door. Fortunately, he got word before they got there and was able to flee with his family. But there was an Iranian hit team that came up to Colonel North's back door in rural Virginia. Okay? So there's no doubt in my mind that our adversaries are planning similar asymmetric operations in the United States. And this is something we need to be preparing for, mindful of. Uh, we need to pressure our representatives to take steps to mitigate the damage that would happen. Because here's the big problem about America when it comes to asymmetric warfare: we're an open society. You can freely, just with a driver's license and a credit card, you can drive anywhere in our country. You can do whatever you want to do. Many of our neighborhoods are not, each house does not have a wall around it or a fence around it. We have a open, high trust society. And that's because, we have a robust legal system, a police force that enforces the law, and people who are able to control their own urges for the most part. Although it looks like lately that's been slipping somewhat. A high trust society is a target rich environment for a terrorist from a country like Iran. And I have no doubt in my mind that there are Iranian sleeper cells in the United States and that they are planning preparing similar operations so that when they get the call from their leadership, all they have to do is push a button and there'll be mass chaos in the United States. This is something we need to think about. Now, somebody's asking why the Ayatollahs are not targeted. Here's what Israel said about the Ayatollahs. They said, uh, if Iran retaliates, that Israel will target the Ayatollahs, will start targeting the religious leaders who actually run the country in Iran. And shortly after Israel made that statement, Iran fired 100 drones at Israel. Now, none of them made it into Israel. They were all shot down by Israeli Air Force, Jordanian Air Force, Saudi Air Force, or United States Air Force before they made it into Israel. And we're expecting that there will be a greater response from Iran once they get their act together. But they are on the back foot now, to say the least. So we expect that Israel will begin to target the mullahs. Now, will they be able to get them? I don't know. The mullahs probably know that they're being targeted at this point. Israel's been pretty clear about that. And so I would imagine those guys are hiding deep, deep, deep underground somewhere. And that's okay. Mr. Steele is being unkind. Why can't our military find the sleeper cells? What's wrong with that? Well, they're called sleeper cells for a reason. Do you know what a sleeper cell is, Regina? A sleeper cell is people who have been sent to the United States under the cover of some other job or course of study or something like that. So they're actually here legally. They're here on, maybe a student visa or a work visa. Maybe they're working at Google as a programmer, or maybe they're going to Harvard as a student. And at the right time, they will get a text or a phone call or in some way be contacted by their handlers in Tehran, and they will be, quote unquote, activated. And that means, okay, it's time to go do your mission. They'll know what their mission is. They will have trained and planned for their mission for years. And then they will, once they're activated, become terrorists. But before they are activated, it's pretty hard to find them because, as you know, we have literally tens of millions of immigrants in the United States. Some of them here legally and some of them here illegally. It doesn't matter. If there's a guy that's working at, Best Buy and he happens to be Iranian and he's here legally on a work visa or something like that, or a programmer at Google, or who knows what, a guy driving the Uber that you order to take you to the airport, whatever. All of those possibilities, all of those people could possibly be sleeper agents. And it's not like the military could just go door to door and go, "Are you a sleeper agent?" Because that's not how this works. So, no, the U.S. military could not go find these sleeper cells. It would be very difficult to do that. The FBI, that would actually be their job to do so anyway, not the military's job. And the FBI does find terrorists. They just thwarted a large terror attack on some Jewish center in New York by a guy that was coming across the border illegally from Canada. And the way that they caught him was they pretended to be on his side, and they were communicating with him, and he was telling them what he was planning to do because he thought they were going to help him, but in reality they were FBI agents. So they're, that's the FBI's job, and they're doing a good job. So far, they have stopped lots of terror attacks in the last 10 years. Okay, so let's go back to what's happening in Israel. Israel has shut down Ben Gurion Airport. They've moved every airplane off of the airport and flown them to Cyprus and other places in preparation for a retaliatory strike from Iran. They have told everybody in Israel that they need to be ready and able to get to their shelter and stay in their shelter for a period of time, because they may have to be in their shelter more than normal for the time being. Now, so far, the Israelis have been watched over by God, and none of the drones, the explosive kamikaze drones that Iran has fired at them, have made it into Israel. But that could change. And Iran has some ballistic missiles left. So they will likely try firing ballistic missiles at Israel. Somebody's asking if Israel has organic air refueling capability. They do, but not much. Only 7 refueling tankers. So they have a lot more fighter and bomber aircraft than that. And they would need to supplement it with help from the United States if they can. They have large antennas on all of their vehicles, and they meet in groups. I really believe I live right in the middle of them. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to go back and read that, Fearless One. I missed the rest of your statement here. So, Israel is continuing to conduct sorties against Iran. They've managed to decapitate the Iranian military, the IRGC, the Quds Force, the nuclear scientists, the top nuclear scientists that were working at the nuclear facilities have been targeted and eliminated. It's really been a decapitation strike on the part of Israel, and it's absolutely amazing. Just epic. Absolutely epic. This is Operation Grim Beeper times 10. And this will go down in history and will be studied by war colleges around the world once this is over. Why not should Chinese-owned properties near military bases not be investigated for asymmetric warfare hideouts? They should be. That'd be a great idea. Is Iran defeated? Well, let's talk about that. The people in Iran are actually, for the most part, happy that their country is being attacked by Israel. I belong to, there's a WhatsApp group, actually a friend of mine belongs to, and this WhatsApp group has a lot of um, Iranians living in Iran that are in the group. And I just want to read you some of the messages from this group from people inside Iran. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. I got to go find it here. This is really amazing. I mean, this is truly astounding. You hear from Iranians themselves how they feel about these attacks. It'll blow your mind. Okay. Here's one. I'm just going to read some of the comments that are on this WhatsApp group. The regime's propaganda is trying to show the world that people in Iran are scared and that children have died. All lies. Iranians could not be happier. The terrorists might do something to us, the people. And when they say the terrorists, they're talking about the government. They might do something to the people here and blame the IDF for it. They would do anything at this point. They are losing it over what Israel did. Somebody else writes from inside Iran and says, yes, we are okay. They targeted the terrorists. Please, people are so happy here. Please pray for the freedom of Iran from Islam and this evil government. Somebody else writes, thank you for this message and your sympathy for the people of Iran. Most cities in Iran have been hit by missiles. In my city, a base and a power plant were hit. Thank God none of my family members were killed, but please, everyone pray for stability in Iran. Somebody else writes, all people are happy and grateful for Israel's actions. No child was harmed except for the murderous commanders of the terrorist IRGC army and those who recently executed our youth. Someone else writes, on Wednesday, an innocent man was executed on false charges, and today the same people who executed him were burned. That night, I asked Jesus and God to destroy this terrorist nation, and today I saw this miracle with my own eyes. Someone else writes, in different cities, especially Kurdistan, people are celebrating and stamping their feet. Please pray for the freedom of Iran. Writing on the same morning that you executed the youth of Iran, at the same hour, the bloodthirsty regime was rolling in its own blood. Long live a free Iran. Someone else writes, thank God only the regime base in Kurdistan was damaged. In Sanandaj and in Qasr Shrin, which is a 3-hour drive from Sanandaj, it's an important ammunition base. It was attacked. Israel's attack was very targeted and precise, even though it took place in the heart of Tehran. Right now, we're worried about these 100 drones. I hope Israeli civilians won't be harmed. Did you get this? This is Iranian civilians writing on social media or on WhatsApp how they feel about this war. And they're on the side of Israel. Okay? Now, right behind me, right back there, is a highway. You can't quite see it because the camera's not high enough. If I lift the camera up like that, you can probably see it. Okay? But there's a road back there that is the pipeline, so to speak, between Iran and Russia. And this is amazing, but Iran has been selling hundreds and hundreds of Shahed suicide drones to Russia to be used in Ukraine. And these nightly drone attacks that Russia is fomenting on Ukraine are due in part to Iranian drones. Now, many of them are being built now inside Russia proper, but they're still buying them from Iran. And this road right back behind me, right over there, is the highway that they use to transport drones from Iran, which is just over those mountains there, up through Armenia, through Georgia into Russia. So you can stand out here and watch these cargo trucks going by. Now, they do what they can to hide what's in them. They're not military trucks and you can't see the drones, but they're in cargo containers. And there are just hundreds and hundreds of these trucks coming through here every day out of Iran. And there are some vehicles going back the other direction into Iran and coming from Russia. And they likely have military hardware of some kind, air defense radars, whatever. And so this is an important pipeline between Iran and Russia. Russia's response to this attack was laughable. Absolutely. These guys obviously did not look in the mirror before they made their response because holy cow. I lost it here, but I'll paraphrase. Russia's response was that no country should attack its neighbor unprovoked and wantonly attack their power infrastructure and critical infrastructure. Uh, and this is really bad. I mean, that's a paraphrase of what Russia said. And makes you go Ukraine, anybody? Russia attacked Ukraine unprovoked and targeted their critical infrastructure and has been for 3 years. So Russia doesn't have a leg to stand on. Nobody's listening to Russia right now. Russia's not going to get involved in this war militarily. They just don't have the bandwidth to do that. They're too busy in Ukraine. They've had to pull most of their troops out of Armenia, here where I am. They used to have over 8,000 troops here in Armenia, and now they're all gone. They've pulled them all out, sent them all to Ukraine. They don't have the bandwidth for that. As we were driving around Armenia today, we saw that Armenian troops are marshaling and getting together. And I don't know if they're training or what, but we saw a lot of Armenian troops. And it's probably because Armenian Armenia just wants to be on guard in case this kind of conflagration between Iran and Israel spreads. If you're right next door to Iran and you are being threatened by Azerbaijan, for example, which Armenia has been threatened by Azerbaijan for years, Azerbaijan may look at this and say, this is the perfect time for us to attack Armenia. This province that I'm sitting in right now is called Sunik province. And if you look it up on a map, it is the province that is bordering Iran. But it doesn't just border Iran. It's a very narrow, long province. And the southern border is 37 miles wide, and that's bordering Iran. But on the east, they border Azerbaijan. And on the west, Sunik borders another exclave of Azerbaijan called Nakhichevan. Now, Azerbaijan has wanted to connect Nakhichevan to Azerbaijan proper for many years. Those are Azeri people living in Nakhichevan, and they think of themselves as one country, but they're separated by this province of Armenia. And so Azerbaijan has been marshaling forces on the border for some time. They've been conducting inflammatory raids and skirmishes along the border, trying to bait the Armenian military into fighting. And they've been using a lot of rhetoric calling Armenia Western Azerbaijan and saying Armenia isn't really a country. It's actually part of Azerbaijan, and we're going to end up taking it. Azerbaijan has a military that's 5 times larger than Armenia's military. So if they decide to take Sunik province, where I'm sitting, tomorrow, they can do it. And if the rest of the world is very focused on the war in Israel, well, what better time for Azerbaijan to strike? So Armenians are preparing, and as well they should be. They should be preparing. They should be on high alert right now. Now, we got 1,889 people online, folks. And so do me a favor and go hit the like button. I know that you need to be reminded to do that. But I always forget while I'm watching videos. I get so into the video, I forget that it really makes a difference if you hit the like button. So please do that. Please give us some likes over there. What that does is it tells YouTube's algorithm that more people need to see this content, and that's good as well. While you're at it, please take a moment and open up a new page and go over to the Hot Zone here on YouTube and subscribe to my personal YouTube channel where I'm doing daily live updates from battlefields all across the planet. I've been a war correspondent for 22 years now, and I've been in every major war in the last 2 decades. And I go to about 25 countries a year, mostly bad countries. They need to have a war in Aruba sometime, someplace nice, but they never do. It's always someplace that nobody would really want to live. Like, what's the if I lived in Syria and somebody came in there and said, we want to take this land, I'd be like, you can have it. I'll go somewhere else. But anyway, suffice it to say, of the 25 countries that I travel to each year, most of them are places you wouldn't want to go. But I'm bringing you the story on the ground for CBN and on my own YouTube channel. So please go subscribe to the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. And I'll put the link in the chat here while we're talking. Let's see. I think it's youtube.com/. Oh, I forget. I'll have to go look it up. So it's the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. There we go. Okay. The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton podcast. And
the costs went
no,
beyond
no,
just the
no,
damage.
no. We don't want to actually play one of the videos. We just want to get to the channel. There it is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to cancel. I'm going to post a link to the Hot Zone podcast in the chat there, and you can go and click on that. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, doesn't cost you anything. I mean, you can join for $4 or $5 a month if you want to, but that's not the point. The point is, go over there and subscribe, and then you can get notified when we do live broadcasts, and you won't miss any. Okay, because especially in times like this, this is going to be job security for a guy like me. I plan to go back to Israel the 1st of July, and I may end up having to go earlier than that, but I've just got a lot of stuff between now and then. I don't know how I'm going to fit it in. And besides, the airports are all closed in Israel right now anyway. Now, if I wanted to get into Israel right now, I could probably still do it by flying into Amman, Jordan, and then crossing the land border into Israel. As far as I know, they did not close the land borders between Israel and Jordan yet. So that would be one way to do it. Rusty Spiker says, if Iran had a nuke, do you think they would use it? Well, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Iran thinks. And Iran has made it very clear many times that the day we get a nuclear bomb is the day Tehran goes up in flames. They have, and maybe you could say they're just talk, but I think that if a murderous authoritarian dictatorship regime tells you what they're going to do, you should believe them, especially if they have the capability to do it. And you should act accordingly. So it's not the kind of thing that it would be smart for Israel to go, there's no way. They wouldn't dare. They wouldn't nuke Tehran. No, if Israel has learned anything from October 7th, it's that pride goes before a fall. And underestimating your enemy is a really bad idea. So I really think that if Tehran were to get a nuclear bomb and had the delivery mechanism to deliver it, they would try to make use of it to destroy Tehran. Well, Israel is not giving them that chance anymore. They're just not going to let them have that opportunity. And so this is likely going to, where's it going from here? This is likely not to be over in a matter of days or even weeks. Unless Iran capitulates, comes to the table, and agrees to dismantle their nuclear facilities, this war is going to continue until one side or the other can no longer fight. Now, Israel is doing the right thing here. Israel is taking steps to safeguard its country, and they're not trying to make it a proportional response. Whenever you hear that term, you should just turn off and stop listening to whoever said it. Because when the news says, oh, or the United Nations or Emmanuel Macron or some, clown like that says, oh, Israel should only respond proportionately, or that's not a proportional response, they ought to get slapped, because a proportional response is a great way to lose a war. What Israel needs to do is concern itself with a response that is shock and awe, that is so overwhelming that the Iranians beg them to stop. That's the only way this war ends. Now, I've mentioned this before, but you cannot win a war from the air alone. If you're only dropping bombs on things, you're not going to ever actually win a war. You can make progress and you can set your enemy back, but you cannot definitively finish the job just with bombers. You've got to have troops on the ground, and nobody's planning on troops on the ground in any significant strength in Iran. Iran has a standing army of 500,000 men. There's, that would be very, very bad to try to take Israeli troops, for example, into Iran and occupy that country. Nobody wants to occupy Iran. Iranians need to occupy Iran. All the Western world is concerned with, the Western world being Israel and the United States at this point, is that Iran not be a threat to its neighbors. And if they can get to the point where Iran is no longer a threat to its neighbors, then that's a win. And they need to uh, couch it that way. Israel does. Okay. Somebody asked, KP1 asked, why is the mainstream media calling this a preemptive strike? Well, they're calling it a preemptive strike because Israel was the one to initiate. They believed that Iran would strike Israel if they got the chance. And so they struck first. I don't know that that's the correct terminology because a preemptive strike, this you could make an argument that what we saw today was not a preemptive strike. It was just a declaration of all-out war. That's what Iran says that it was. And Iran, in return, is declaring all-out war on Israel. So we'll have to see where it goes from here. But I think I want to be very clear about this, and then I will answer some more questions, and then we'll be done. If you live in America, we need to be very cautious and concerned, especially tomorrow in our country. Why? Because there are over 1,800 protest marches planned by this No Kings movement. And it's highly probable that, definitely possible, that Iran is, as we speak, activating sleeper cells inside the United States. And those guys are going to be tasked with going to various spots around the United States and attempting to wipe out as many Americans as possible through whatever means necessary. As I said, they have likely been planning these operations for years. And if you thought tomorrow would be a great day to go out and protest or go out and counter protest or even just go to the park, let me recommend that you perhaps think again, or at least keep your head on a swivel. And if you're trained to use a self-defense tool, make sure that you are armed and ready to defend yourself and your family. But I really believe that Iran is going to pull out all the stops and do whatever it can. It knows it cannot win via their conventional military. It's watching, and the people are watching, more importantly, that these drones that they're firing are not even making it into Israel before they get shot down. So far, in all three attacks, in April, in October, and today, precisely zero Israelis have been killed by Iran. And that's not by design. That is just indicative of how bad Iranian military equipment is and how good Israeli military equipment is. Thank God. Thank God. And how great God is, because there's no doubt in my mind that God has sent his angels to protect Israel. So we need to be cautious because America, remember, is the great Satan. Israel is called the little Satan in Iran. And if Iran has any zero-day exploits or sleeper cells or you name it, any of those kind of things pre-positioned in the United States, there's a good chance those things will be activated in the very near future as a part of Iran's response. Iran has already been blaming the United States for this. A lot of people are saying, oh, Trump was smart not to let the United States military get involved because then they can't claim that the United States is the one attacking Iran. Well, they are claiming that it's the United States through that's helping Israel attack Iran, and in so doing, uh, they are saying it's justified any kind of strikes that they could pull off in the United States. So we need to keep our heads on a swivel. We need to be thinking and really intentional about where we go and what we do, especially over the coming, let's say, week or two. All right. But tomorrow, especially. All right. Question: can we believe Iran if they all of a sudden come to the table now? No, we cannot. That's an easy question. You can't trust Iran as far as you can throw them. If Soros is handing out protective gear, maybe we should all go get some. Yeah, that'd be fun. Those were expensive masks and stuff they were passing out. Will this, Rusty Spiker says, one more question. Will the U.S. use its large bunker buster bombs at some point in the war? Well, they are saying now that they're going to stay out of it and that this is all on Israel. Israel does not have the capability to drop a bunker buster bomb. They don't have the capability to lift a bunker buster bomb for the most part. And they certainly don't have the capability to drop it. So well, let me be more precise on that. Israel does have bunker buster bombs, small ones, smaller ones. They don't have the 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator, which can penetrate 200 feet of dirt and stone or 65 feet of reinforced concrete. They don't have anything like that. And that's what would be necessary to really do this job right inside Iran. So, with that being said, Israel is reduced to just trying to collapse the entrances of the underground facilities and making it harder for Iran to get in and out of those facilities with weapons or uranium or anything like that. Somebody had asked whether or not Israel could go in and take the uranium, and I would say probably not. It's probably in a highly secure facility deep underground for more reasons than one. I mean, partially because it's highly radioactive, would have to be. Uh, so, unless they put Mossad troops on the ground or Yahalom or somebody and send them in to Israel, which is very unlikely to happen, at least on any scale, then no, they would not be able to go in there and confiscate the uranium, most likely. Do you think Isaiah 17 is next, the destruction of Damascus? I don't know. I'm not a prophet. Don't claim to be. Question: would you leave senior complex in Metroplex and go to country over an hour away? Truth, 200 units here. Cheryl, I have no idea what you're asking me there. I'm sorry. You're going to have to clarify your question because that question makes absolutely no sense to me. 200 units here? What are you talking about? Would you leave senior complex? I'm sorry. I don't have any idea what you're trying to say. So you're going to have to rephrase your question. Question, Chuck. I don't believe anything will change in Iran until Islam is criticized and rejected and banished. May I ask your opinion? Well, my opinion, Freedom Dominion, is that there are many people in Iran who are rejecting Islam. They're seeing how brutal Islam is, and they're saying, I want no part of it. And right now, Iran is one of the fastest growing countries in the world in terms of percentage of Christians in the country because people are coming to Christ in droves inside Iran right now. And it's, I think, specifically because of the persecution that's taking place there. Okay. Looking for more. We got about 1 minute left. Anybody else have a final question? Thank you very much for watching, folks. If you'd like to support CBN, please go to cbn.com and just donate over there. You can donate here on YouTube, but they take a large portion of the donation. So it'd be better to go to cbn.com and donate. Please do that. CBN is a donor-funded organization. That's what keeps us in the field. This little old lady's $25 a month. That's what keeps me doing my job for 22 years. So thank you for all of you who do donate. And CBN could definitely use your donations now. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and go over to Chuck Holton. I'm sorry, to the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton here on YouTube and subscribe there. You can also go to chuckholton.com and subscribe. And you can get a lot of extra content over there. Get it early, faster than you can get it on YouTube. So, and there's a lot of stuff I can't put on YouTube that we put up over there. All right, let me do one more thing before we go, and that is I want to say a prayer for Israel right now and for the people of Iran. So let's pray. Lord God, I just pray that you would send your angels to camp around Israel right now and protect her, especially as Iran plans a violent response against them. Lord, I pray that you would thwart the plans of evil men wherever they are, and that they would fall on their own swords, that their missiles would come back on their own heads, and that they would know that you are God because of the supernatural protection that you give to Israel. Lord, I pray for our leaders in the United States and in Israel and elsewhere. You'd give them supernatural wisdom and discernment so that they can know the right and then give them courage to do what's right, whether or not it's politically expedient. Father, that's what we want in our leaders. Help us to trust you more through this uncertain time and love the people around us in ways that will break the bonds of hatred that are so prevalent in our society today. Father, we pray for America, especially tomorrow as these riots and protests are planned all across the United States. We pray that you would bring a spirit of peace and calm to the entire U.S. and that people would just decide not to go out and riot. Lord, I pray that you would bring revival in America, that people would cry out to you and they would find you and you would be their God. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate all of you. Again, please like and subscribe. Don't forget, we'll see you again next time. Take care.